Welcome to Fox in Depth. I'm John Scott. In a moment, our discussion of the plight of dozens of Iraqi defectors, opponents of Saddam Hussein, who are languishing right now in U.S. jails and could face deportation back to Iraq. We'll discuss that case in just a moment. But first, it is the worst thing imaginable for every parent to have your child kidnapped. And in the case of one San Francisco mother, the abductor was her husband. 11 years ago, Patricia Roush's estranged husband kidnapped their two daughters and took them to Saudi Arabia. Since then, Ms. Roush has attempted to get her daughters back. This week, she will take her case to our nation's capital, where she will speak to members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Joining us now is Patricia Roush and her attorney, Michael Wilds. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the background of this case. You met your husband when you were both students. He was a Saudi student studying in this country. You met, fell in love, got married, and you had your first daughter.
Right.
Take the story from there.
I met him when he was a student sent here by the Saudi Arabian Educational Mission in the 70s to study in San Francisco. I had two daughters, Alia and Aisha. He was basically an absent father who didn't participate much in his daughters' rearing. He finally left us, and I was left to rear the children. He took them on a weekend visit in 1985. I had full custody of the girls. The girls hardly knew their dad. He took them after I divorced him and brought them to Saudi Arabia.
And how old were they?
They were 3.5 and 7.
And how did he get them out of the country?
It's easy. He went to the Saudi embassy and they gave him Saudi passports for my daughters. And he has a relative that works in the Saudi embassy in a high position in the Saudi embassy, and it was very easy for him to be issued Saudi passports for the children. The children were 3.5 and 7, and I'm sure that they were in tears, and he dragged them off. They had no recourse but to go with him.
And you've been trying ever since then?
Yes, my case and my lobbying has brought together the U.S. signing the Hague Treaty in 1987, a reciprocal arrangement between countries honoring the original custody decree. The Saudis have not signed it. They're not conciliatory to the Hague Treaty. My case and my lobbying has been responsible for the U.S. Initiating the International Child Abduction Crime Act, which was passed in December of 1993, and a special section of the State Department called Children's Issues. This was all done to my lobbying, but it has not affected the bringing of my girls to U.S. soil.
So you have hooked up now with Michael Wilds, who is helping you, at least in this latest attempt to get your daughters back. Is there any movement at all on the part of the Saudi government? A
little bit. As recent as an hour ago, we received a fax from the American ambassador to Saudi Arabia that he had spoken to the Saudi ambassador to Washington, that they have now agreed for another visit for Pat to return to Saudi Arabia and see her daughters there. This is insufficient as far as my client has been concerned. We have been to Saudi Arabia before. My client fears going back to Saudi Arabia. The State Department has always maintained that it's there to protect the commercial interests of the United States, and unfortunately has ignored its U.S. citizen daughters. In the time that your daughters have been absent from you, you have seen them only the one time that you went to Saudi Arabia? You saw them for 2 hours?
That's correct. Due to Mr. Wilds' help and the help of the then U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Raymond Mabus, who's a friend of the president's, he was able to get me into Saudi Arabia to see my girls 2 years ago in June of 1995. The Saudis told me that I'd be able to see my girls every day that I was there. In reality, I was able to see my daughters for 2 hours, and I was in Saudi Arabia a month. And my daughters, they're teenagers now. My daughter is one daughter's 15 and one is 18, and they expressed a wish to come home. They said, Mama, please don't leave us here. We want to come home with you. And then they took them away, put long black veils on their faces, and had to be taken away. And I never saw them again, and I've never been allowed any contact after those 2 hours. Can you imagine the cruelty involved in that?
What is the argument, Michael, that you make to the Saudis or to our government in order to try to get her daughters back?
These girls are citizens of the United States. They have all privileges and rights under the Constitution. And last I checked, we elected the officials of our government to protect our interests. And it's unacceptable to us that they will continue to broker billions of dollars of armament deals and business deals between the United States and Saudi Arabia and ignore these girls.
Michael Wilds, Patricia Roush, we wish you the best in trying to get your daughters back. I know you're going to Washington to press for this case. we will certainly keep an eye on it, follow what happens, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for joining us today. The end of the Gulf War was hardly the end of the violence and conflict that...
For 11 years, a Bay Area woman has tried to get her abducted daughters out of Saudi Arabia. Today, she takes her quest to Capitol Hill. Mark Curtis has more on the story from the Washington, D.C. Bureau. Good morning, Mark.
Ross, good morning from Capitol Hill. Indeed, this morning, Patricia Roush, she's the Bay Area woman we're talking about, an attorney, confirmed to us that they are mulling over a diplomatic offer of sorts that's being worked out between the U.S. State Department and the Saudi Arabian embassy so that she could once again see her daughters. But they fear that this would be a very short, very brief visit and is only being offered to quell all the bad publicity against Saudi Arabia this case is generating. They hope these steps are steps of progress. Patricia Roush and her attorney Michael Wilds are back in Washington, fighting in Congress and the State Department for her two daughters. 11 years ago, daughters Aisha and Aliyah were kidnapped by their father, a Saudi national, and Patricia's estranged husband. In those 11 years, Patricia has only had one 2-hour visit with the girls.
Visitation with my daughters in Saudi Arabia is like going to see two creatures that are condemned to death, two creatures that are on death row. Living in Saudi Arabia, they have absolutely nothing to look forward to. For me to go there and see them under the extreme conditions that they're living with, under no rights at all.
Now, in the past few days, Roush has been offered a second visit with her daughters, but the terms remain unclear. Her attorney says money and politics are preventing a permanent return of the two girls.
The American and Saudi governments have bargained our American citizen daughters for oil and military installations.
And to know that they can never leave and that they know that I'm going to be able to leave, it's torturous for all three of us. It's not even human.
And Ross, we have made attempts to contact the Saudi Arabian embassy here in Washington for comment. They have declined to return our calls or make any comment. Incidentally, Patricia Roush shortly and her attorney will be heading to the offices of Senator Boxer and Feinstein, also Jesse Helms, who heads the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. There is much urgency to this matter now because her oldest daughter, Aliyah, is 18. Patricia fears that her daughter is going to be married off, as is often the custom in Saudi Arabia, and that she may never see that daughter again. That is the latest on a situation here in Washington. I'm Mark Curtis, Morning Sun 2. Ross?
All right, thank you, Mark. Time now is 7:20. Still ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Wilds. For your reference, my phone number is 212-753-6085. I'm Patricia Roush's attorney. We are here today in Washington several days after Mother's Day to meet with our legislators. Unfortunately, it took 11 years for the United States government to own up for this egregious matter. What is U.S. citizenship worth? I am holding 2 passports of 2 American girls that were abducted 11 years ago, taken forcibly from their mother, and removed to Saudi Arabia, an ally of the United States government. How does these passports of these 2 girls help them when they live in black veils in a Middle Eastern country that does not believe in the rights of women at all? What is the function or approach that our American representatives should take when citizens of the United States are in jeopardy and their lives are at risk? Would you be satisfied if your child was kidnapped and removed to from the United States and be told by an American representative that they are there for commercial interests? I think not. People died for Saudi Arabia. Soldiers drew blood. American people for that country. And this is how they treat our citizens? And this is how the State Department treats a mother? Our government has brokered for oil and for military installations. They have brokered our daughters. We will not allow this to continue. Patricia's daughters were kidnapped in 1986. They were taken when she was nice enough to let the father of those girls visit with the kids for a short while. She had full custody of those kids, and they were removed and taken to Saudi Arabia.